Okay, full body fixers, my age defying achievers. Just getting set up here with my computer. Okay, so first thing I'd like to do is offer all in attendance a very cool gift that there's been a few really intelligent individuals that have taken advantage of this already, and that is a semi-private consultation with me. This is where we get into a private Zoom meeting with about 3 to 5 different full body fixers. And I get to meet with you, learn about your goals, your objectives, hurdles that you're up against. What is it that you want to achieve? What do you see that you need to overcome? And, can we help you fix that? Is that the type of thing that we really specialize in? And so in this session, I'll help you figure out exactly that so that you can learn about becoming a VIP. A VIP is what we call a very important person that becomes very impressive physically. So we don't call our clients, we call them VIPs. If you would like to learn about what happens after the full body fix, and if you would like to become a VIP of mine and also my world-class team of doctorate level and master's level of physical therapists, orthopedic specialists, and physiologists, that's who's on my team. And we would love to work with you. And what we can do is meet in a semi-private consultation. You can click in the chat now. If you're interested in meeting with me and to learn more about that, click in the chat now. Patricia has dropped a link there, and you can schedule yourself in for one of those semi-private consultations. And it's called It's All About You, because in this session, it's going to be all about you. I get to learn about you. And what we'll do is, if I feel like you're a perfect fit for us, I'll let you know that. And if I feel like what you're wanting to achieve isn't perfect, I'll give you directions, resources, connections to amazing other individuals that would be able to help and target your specific situation. So if you think that's something that you're interested in, you're looking to make an investment in yourself and your body and your life to really take your quality of life to the next level, I highly suggest you click on the chat and go to It's an All About You session with me, where I get to know you a lot better. Okay. And then we can figure out exactly what you need to do, and I can give you some personal direction. With that being said, let's go on to Q&A. So questions and answers. So now what we're going to do is go into questions and answers. And also, if you have comments or positive shares, I can also talk to you about that. And we're going to have Tony come up with me here in just a second. But before we do, I want to make sure everyone knows how to do this. So what you would do is you would go to your Zoom toolbar in the bottom of your screen. And if you want to speak with me, and click reactions, and that's for the Q&A now. So you click on reactions, and then you'd click on raise hand, and you'd see your digital hand raised like this. So if you're not used to Zoom and functionality in Zoom, go to the Zoom toolbar, click on reactions, and then you'll see a box open, and you'll see raise hand. When you click on raise hand, I know that you want to speak with me, and I'll call on you in the order in which you raise your hand. Okay. So with that being said, let's speak with Tony. Hello, Tony. Welcome. One second. Let me send you a link to unmute. There we go.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi. So I wanted to talk for just a minute about my scoliosis. I have a thoracic curve that's concave to the right and a lumbar curve that is concave to the left. So when I was doing these exercises, and you were talking about your pelvis being straight, mine isn't. My right hip is higher than my left hip. And probably my shoulders aren't even either. And I think I have muscles that are compressed on one side and stretched on the other. So I'm really not very even. And my question is, in doing these exercises, am I just going to be that are symmetrical type exercises? Is that going to just solidify my scoliosis curve, or is it going to help to change it or elongate it or stay? I'm just concerned. I want to make sure that I'm doing things that are going to help in the long run.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So,
or do I need a different type of exercising? I guess is the fundamental question.
Well, there's a couple ways to look. First of all, if you keep your pelvis as neutral and level as you can, then you're going to overall distribute the load, even with the scoliotic curve, which you can decrease a little bit depending on the individual, depending on how severe. You can make some changes to that. Okay, it is possible, and sometimes that scoliotic curve is due to other tissues that aren't just bone. Right, it's part of the equation. I'm not saying it's the whole equation, but it can be part of the equation. So as you start to align, as you start to exercise with your pelvis very neutral, you will start to optimize those tissues. And as you start getting into, like for our VIPs, we measure like lateral flexion on one side versus lateral flexion on the other, and then we know the actual degrees. And when you know the actual degrees, you can optimize each side of the lower back. And then you do that with the hips and the hamstrings and the hip flexors, because all these tissues, if they're off, they can create what basically looks like a type of scoliotic curve and deviations in the body's alignment. So when you do all those things, it will make it better. Okay. So, and then, another thing to think about is like, well, like you said, so should you do other types of exercise? I don't necessarily, you shouldn't do other types of exercise. I mean, there's a lot of exercise you should do. One thing you shouldn't do is try to put a lot of load and stress on your spine in form of a deadlift or squat. And there's certain exercise you're going to want to really be careful with in terms of how much load you put on your body. Right. So that would be my concern for you. And one of the ways you could get amazing strength training results with the scoliotic curve is doing a lot of like single leg strength training. So training left leg separate from the right leg. So you don't have both legs and then a deviation and misalignment. You're training one side and then you're training the other. And that's the most critical functionality of the body and lower body anyway, is the strength train and get really great at single leg functionality. And like our system includes a lot of single leg type of work and functionality, because that's the most important type of capability. So what you want to stay away from is heavy load, deadlift, squat, that type of thing, pressure on your spine where you're trying to go to high fatigue. That would keep you away from. Otherwise, like I shared, yeah, it's going to definitely create improvements by focusing on those mechanics.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. And Tony, come see me for an It's All About You session. We'd love to share with you more how we do that in the system together.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. My pleasure. And then Pat. Hello, Pat. Welcome. And Patricia will send you a link to unmute here. Just 1 second.
Now, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay. Yep. I'm in my 80s, and all my life, my sister and brothers and I have always walked with our right foot pointed out, kind of between way out and straight. And I also have sciatica now. Does that have to do with the way I walk? And is it better to try to change after all these years and force myself to walk forward straight? And does that have anything to do with sciatica, do you think?
So first, the question of, does the foot pointing out when we walk, can that lead to sciatica? And the answer is yes. And the way that happens is when your foot rotates out, what you're doing is rotating your leg out, and your leg is, of course, it's like all attached to the hip. So when you put your foot out, your hip rotates out always, right? Because you don't really have the ability to rotate the knee that much. And the knee rotates like about that much. So when the foot goes out, the hip goes out. And then what happens is you have 6 external rotators in your hip, in your butt area, okay, to keep language simple. So you have these external rotators that all run like this. They run this direction, the path that I'm showing my hand, right? And so one of those tissues is called the piriformis, and that piriformis tissue, when it gets tight. I'm sure if you looked up like sciatica and stuff on the internet, I'm sure you've seen this before, but that clamps down on the sciatic nerve, and that's part of what leads to sciatica. So what's happening is by walking with the foot out, you're basically training. It's like exercise. You're training your tissue to function in a shortened position. Then it gets shorter and clamps down on that sciatic nerve. So then the question becomes, okay, so should I try to just go perfect and force myself into perfect all day for every step? And oftentimes that doesn't work so well, to go from one extreme, even though this is aligned and this isn't, to go into this extreme, because you've had a lot of adaptation to go in this position. So if you just lessen it and you just start to go like halfway, and then over time you start to go back to straight, even at 80, 85, 90, 95, your tissues will change. So basically, as long as you're alive, your body and your cells are regenerating themselves, and the tissues can change. And, you know, people can get much stronger at 95 years old, starting a strength training plan. They actually have research on this. So yeah, the tissues can change, but regardless of age, especially with age, you want to be a little cautious about how fast you do that, how much you force, because the tissues just, even though it's this alignment, your tissues aren't used to that. So you want to go slowly, right? Okay. You want to go slowly over time, listen to your body. And then if you use like mobility exercises, like the calf stretching that we showed in session 1, and then some of the hip stretching we showed in session 2, and you couple the mobility training with the movement alignment, that's where we start to really get amazing results. So you kind of couple those two together. That's how you get the best results.
Thank you. So change gradually, little by little. Otherwise, because I have to think about changing. If I don't think about it, I just go back to the other way.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is like the reality is, you know, I could say, hey, try to, every time you think about it, change. And the reality is you probably really wouldn't overtrain the area too much, unless you're really an OCD individual, because, you know, if you're doing 7,000 steps a day, you're not likely to be able to think about and do all 7,000 steps in this perfectly aligned way. So it's kind of like, you know, how much are you doing in this very aligned way? So I try to do like 10% of them in this perfect aligned way. And that might take you thinking about it as much as possible, and then go from there, right? Because you have the psychological component and the actual physical of what's happening. Yeah.
So I guess I was just born that way, or how did I ever get that way in the first place?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, most people aren't aligned, and the tissues aren't aligned. It can be bone, it can be soft tissue, it can be connective tissue. But it can be genetic. It can be the way you always sat in your chair. It can be a lot of things, right? It can be, and so from that, it just gets reinforced. But we can change that quite a bit. We can change it quite a bit.
Thank you for your advice. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
That's it.
Okay. So my age-defying achievers, any other questions in this session, let me know. You can simply go to your Zoom toolbar, click on reactions, click on raise hand, and let me know if you'd like to chat. If you have some question, comment, positive share, would love to hear from you. So now's the time to do that. And depending on how many questions, comments, positive shares we have, really depends on how long we keep today's session continually going into the Q&A. And Patricia, while we're waiting for participants to raise their hand, anything that you'd like to share?
Not today. We do have a session on Friday and Saturday. So these are our 2 final sessions for the full body fix. And my last notification is that we have now 3 spots for the It's All About You meeting, and we only do those 4 times a year. So if you're thinking about it, I would advise you to do it today.
Wow, we only have three spots left. Okay, yeah. So we only have 3 spots left for the It's All About You. So if you really want to learn about how to become a VIP of ours and learn how to get into our full training system, and for me to be able to learn more about you and get some consulting with me, go ahead and click on the link that's in the chat now. Click on that link and go ahead and schedule yourself in. And if you're looking for that, or you're having anything that you really want help with, please click on the chat, and you can always message Patricia and she can help you further. If you're looking for times, or you're looking for programming, or whatever questions you have, exercises, you can connect with Patricia and we can help you with that. So Friday's session will be awesome. That will be focused on shoulders and neck. So shoulders for men, for example, 50% of men over the age of 50 have a torn rotator cuff. So it's a great area to focus on. Shoulders is the most commonly injured area in the body. So we'll be going into great lengths on shoulders and neck and learning the 7 critical factors that have to do with optimizing that part of your body. And then Saturday will be amazing. We're going to have a lot of fun. Do not miss Saturday. That's going to be an amazing session. We will have a great connection, and we'll tie everything together. Everything you've been learning over the first 4 sessions, we'll tie it all together. So with that being said, let's go to G. Of course, I don't know your full name, but for now I'll call you G. So welcome. I think,
yeah.
Yep. There we go. You're unmuted. Yeah.
Hey, hi, I'm Cynthia.
Oh, Cynthia. Hello, Cynthia.
I have a question. Around age 7, I had a broken hip, and I was fine up to this point. One of the things that I experienced while sleeping, it gets tired during the night. So I'm a side sleeper. So I would put a pillow between my knees in order to help with the tiredness or the fatigue that is feeling while I'm sleeping. Is that a proper thing to do?
Yeah, so you put the pillow between your legs and then during side sleeping, correct? Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, really good. Yep.
Okay. I think one of the reasons why now that I'm feeling it more so is because I started again doing a lot of physical activity, working out, lifting weights. So is there a chance that is because of that I'm feeling it again, or it has gotten worse over the years? Is there a chance to fix that again?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the interesting thing is, like, when we have past injuries, sometimes they don't bother us for a while and then they start to, and it's kind of like, well, why? And usually it's because we're stressing the tissue in new ways somehow. Like, it could be you're sitting a lot more and you might not even realize, like, some people, they'll travel or just their environment changes, and because of that, they're sitting more or they're in different positions than they normally, and then a body area will start bothering them that from years ago that hasn't been an issue for a while. It really takes a lot of mechanical optimization and training to retrain like an injured area. So your body learns to not be as, to guard and protect that area. So the tissues will get more stiff. It'll shut down strength oftentimes the area. We can almost always really recondition and develop that area, but there has to be a lot of focus to do that. So my guess is, you don't have perfect alignment in your hip. There's some tissue restrictions and misalignments going on, and then we add additional activity. So a lot of what we talked about in the full body fix will help you break down and figure out your hip rotation, range of motion, and flexion, extension, like we did in last session. And all of those things together will help you. So look at your alignment first, and then look at, how much more physical activity you're doing, what kind of physical activity, right? So depending on the position that you're doing physical activity in too, that can make a big difference as well. So for example, like end range of motion positions, like if you're doing some type of rowing, right? Like a rower where your hip is flexed, or, you know, riding on a bike where you're bent over more, like this changes that alignment of the hip. So typically walking is one of the best things to do for your mechanics. There's a lot of things you should do. Walking is not going to cut it alone, but, you know, walking regularly, that's a really good thing to do.
Yeah, I do a lot of walking.
That's good. That's awesome. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Well, I think I will chat with you again more in the semi-private chat. So
cool. Awesome. Yes, perfect. Great. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it's, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on there in the hip. So we need to like measure everything and see where you're at, and then see how your lunge and your squat, and do you have different misalignments and deviations, and kind of look at everything and be like, oh, this was really off and this one's off. Okay, focus on these two, and then we make a huge progress. So it's kind of like got to cover all the bases to find out, you know, what is the straw, so to speak, that's breaking the camel's back, right? Yeah.
What state are you in?
What's that?
What state are you in?
We're in Arizona.
In Arizona. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. What state are you in?
In New York.
New York. Awesome. Very cool. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. I look forward to meeting you, getting to know you even better in the It's All About You session.
Yeah. You too. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah. You're welcome. And Mary Beth, hello, welcome.
Yes. Yes. Okay, good. Yes, I need to change this thing too. Okay. What I was wondering was with my current disability, sometimes it's clear that my right leg is a lot weaker than my left leg. And I wondered, is that something we'll work on making one leg stronger? Is that right?
Yeah.
Or we'll work on making both of them stronger. Or how will that work? I'm just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. So we would definitely focus on developing both of your legs, but sometimes we want to focus more on one than another and do more reps, a little bit more fatigue, more mobility exercises, because the goal is really to create symmetry and alignment the best we can from one side of the body to the other, which sometimes requires more targeted focus and exercise on one side. So it really just depends on where your strength discrepancies are at. One interesting thing to know is, like, when you work the left side, your right side actually does get benefits, and vice versa. So, and oftentimes we'll, like if you're having neurological issues, we'll use the left side to really feel and get in the functionality, and then try to carry over to the right side. So it's almost like the left side is training the right side, and we'll guide you through a process of feeling and then being able to execute that on the other side.
Yeah. I would just like to say that back in the days when I was functioning like a normal person and could play volleyball every day, it's just that both legs worked just fine. And, but then they gradually, neurologically, something happened with my brain, I guess, and all that. So, so I just want to say that there was a time when they worked just fine, as far as I could tell, about 8 years ago. But now they work very crappily. But it is the right one that's way weaker than the left leg. So, and anyway, I'd be glad if you fix it.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, as a VIP, improvement is for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. And I think, Mary Beth, you're connecting with Patricia tomorrow. Is that right? Yeah, awesome. Any other questions before we log off from today's session? I'm going to hang out here for another 30 seconds and see if anyone has any other questions before we close out the session. Just want to make sure that I've answered everybody's question and I've helped all participants to the best of my ability before we close out the session. You're welcome so much, Amber. Okay, Patricia, I'll let you close us out with anything you'd like to share. And we'll look forward to seeing you on Friday. Much love to you. I'll see you on Friday.
I'll see you on Friday. Much, much love.